what I found after the whole thing with COVID is the after effects are just as, it's almost just as bad as the sickness almost, I feel.
Not just an 8-day, 2-week disease. It is not. It is not just a virus like the flu that comes and goes. It changes you.
You have to get away from the narrative that there's only two outcomes for COVID, right? You either have 2 weeks of symptoms where you potentially lose your your sense of smell and your taste and you have respiratory problems, or you die. Like there's more than two outcomes.
The worst for me came later.
I just started feeling not myself, and a feeling that I've never felt before.
It almost feels like my body is frequently telling me I'm at war, and I'm not, but all of my defense systems are up being like, oh, this thing's happening. We have to fight it.
When I hit month 4, I constantly was dizzy. I was losing my balance.
And I would be like, why can't I read this? And I'm like, what's happening? And there's no reason my eyesight should have changed as drastically as it did, to the point that I'm wearing contacts, plus I need readers.
Driving at night is terrible because lights become those instant stars. That's what it's like consistently driving at night.
And then the fatigue and brain fog and weird body pains. Oh, lots of headaches too.
Oh, migraines. That's another one. They were very predominant in the beginning, went away for a month, and now they are back like no one's business.
We have what we call COVID naps, where, yeah, you just sleep, and there's nothing you can do to stop them.
I could barely get out of bed. I was having constant shortness of breath and chest pain and fatigue.
Because I have very thick Italian hair, I was never able to see my scalp before. You can see my scalp. I'll wake up in the morning sometimes and I'll think like, is that dog hair or is that my hair on my pillow?
Every single time I came out of the shower, there were more and 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 more. So this is almost all of this. This probably weighs, I would say, a good 2 pounds. And it's a lot of hair that has come out of my head. And I was really frightened that I would be going bald.
Had tooth infections. I've never had a tooth infection in my life, and I think I had 3 over 3 months as well.
I have always had amazing good teeth. And then she's like, your gums have deteriorated. She went back on my chart. She's like, oh, it says you had COVID, blah, blah. This came from the lack of oxygen. My gums now slant down, this bottom row, slant down like this.
I have these weird, like this affect of garlic almost still. It's so weird, like nothing tastes like it used to taste.
It completely changed my palate to now I'll eat and just try about anything, where before, if it wasn't chicken nuggets or pizza or a hamburger, I didn't want it.
I could feel my heart just racing. It's like my heart is wanting to jump out of my chest.
My heart rate skyrockets.
I was in the ER for this new chest pain that I was having that was different. It was deeper than the chest pain I had had so far up to that point. So my whole body was hurting, including my kidneys, but mostly it was this chest thing.
October 2019, I stopped having my menstrual cycle. And then on day 5 of COVID, so it was April 10th, I bled like no other. It was almost like I was hemorrhaging for 8 days straight. And my blood work was that of like an 80-year-old woman that's had menopause. And I'm only 51 at the time.
If I spent too long outside or pushed myself, I would have 4 hours where I feel like I'm back at my fever and stuck in bed. And
my energy level was way down, no sex drive, nothing. When that blood panel came back, my testosterone level was at 60. And I believe the normal level is 200 to 600 or something like that.
Was I started to have these episodes, is what we ended up calling them. They look like seizures, so that's kind of what we thought they were at first. Basically, The way it was explained to me was your body kind of goes into a panic attack. Your body starts attacking itself and can't regulate its temperature, its motion, your heart rate. It just kind of shuts down. So those started happening on the dot every 2 weeks on a Wednesday night after 10 o'clock. I would shake. I wouldn't remember. My eyes would roll back. I couldn't hold my head up.
There's something in me that this doesn't feel right.
I just want to be myself again.
It's absolutely terrible because there's nothing you can do. You are just kind of on your own, in your own world, being gaslit by society of like, it's fake, this is fake, it's the government, no, 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 no. And you're like, no, it's not. Like, I'm legit sick.
I was a healthy 27-year-old who had no underlying conditions and was running every day to nothing.
It's been 148 days.
I have had symptoms of COVID for 288 days. That's about 9.5 months.
I think people need to understand the severity of what this could do to themselves, but also if they're not kind or conscious enough to put on a mask, they don't know, how that could affect somebody else who is autoimmune deficient or, has bad asthma. Like people with things like that have a really hard time with COVID.
Recognize there's more than one outcome. Recognize that people are sick for months. Some people are developing chronic illnesses, severe chronic illnesses that have terrible repercussions on their bodies and on their health. You have a social responsibility to everybody else, whether you recognize it or not.